We're back, and I am going to be talking about this article from Ben Verbanik of Terre Haute, talking about this carbon sequestration bill and then the rules that have just been adopted, but they still have to be signed off by Rokita and Braun. But Ben Verbanik wrote this amazing article about some of the history of this carbon sequestration project and the area that it's going to be happening at. The locals do not want it to happen at all. I've been following this for about a year now. There was a video that got posted on YouTube. All these links, by the way, that I'm talking about will be in the description below. And in the video, the guy that was leading the meeting from Wabash Valley Resources, and he basically told all the locals, "Sucks for you. This is happening. This is more like we have to do this," which it is. There are rules that they have to follow that says if there's going to be something going on, they have to have a town forum, they have to have a town hall, and basically they have to get the input from the locals. And most of the locals, if not all of them, all said we do not want this carbon sequestration bill or this to happen with Wabash Valley Resources. Now it goes into into the weeds of what is going on, but I don't really want to talk about that. I want to talk about how scummy all of this stuff is, and it just shows that everybody's getting paid from somebody to push for something. And this is no different. Now, in this article from Ben Verbanik, he talks about two bills, particular HEA 1209 and HEA 1626. The first one to allow carbon sequestration projects in Indiana, and in 2023, directing the DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, to adopt rules for their implementation. These rules were to include topics like permitting, timeline, safety monitoring, and EPA compliance. Now, on here, he does have a link for it, and on that link, it just shows that there was a video that you can watch, but I'm willing to bet you're not going to watch an hour and 40 minutes of the meeting. Now, I did not know this until I read this awesome article from Ben Verbanik. The Attorney General Todd Rokita has to sign off of it before it goes to Mike Braun for official signing, and then now they can start doing this project. Now, if you go to this meeting, what you will see is that the Natural Resources Commission meeting is led by a board, and on that board are a couple of citizens. On here, there's a 12-member board, including 6 citizens chosen by the governor on a bipartisan basis, 3 ex officio members from state agencies, director of Department of Natural Resources, and the chair of the advisory council, and a representative in the Indiana Academy of Science. Now, this was really funny when I looked at this board, because there is one in particular person. I was like, wait a minute, I know that guy. That's Tom Kelly. Tom Kelly is the president or CEO of Kelly Automotive Group. You remember Tom Kelly because he's also on the Motor Advisory Board. That I thought was, well, that's really weird. What is the guy that runs Kelly Automotive Group over on the Indiana Natural Resources Commission? I don't know. And the reason I bring that up is because they always talk about, well, you get some regular people on this board. Are they regular people, though? Are they the average Joes, or do they all have some way of benefiting other people for their vote? And I think this is no different than everything else. It all seems very scummy. Now, the 2 bills that Ben Verbanik were talking about was HB 1209, which was authored by Ed Soliday, and then another one that is by Ed Soliday, sponsored by Eric Koch. And Eric Koch is like a huge energy guy. Is John Ford on here too? I think it was sponsored. Yeah, John Ford, which we're going to talk about him in a second, because this is really going to, there are so many connections to this. And trust me, we're going to get there. It's going to make sense of where, to the point you're going to be saying to yourself after this video, everybody's corrupt. Everything sucks. We can't trust anybody. Because that's where I'm at currently. So even before the 2022 and 2023, John Ford had introduced a bill back in 2019 with Andy Zay. Now, there are 4 names you need to remember: John Ford, Andy Zay, Mark Messmer, and Ellen Morrison. These are all the 4 key people of this. All these other ones, even J.D. Prescott sponsored it. Wow, shocker, right? You could throw David Niazgoski on there, but I wouldn't. I would just focus on these 4: John Ford, Andy Zay, Messmer, and Ellen Morrison. Back in 2019, there was a bill for underground storage of carbon dioxide, saying this declares the underground storage of carbon dioxide to be a public use and service in the public interest and a benefit to the welfare and people of Indiana. hey, you know what? This thing is going to benefit the people of Indiana, the welfare of the people of Indiana. It's going to be so amazing. And really what it's doing is it's pumping liquid carbon dioxide into the ground at thousands of psi of pressure. So when you see Ed Soliday, when he's like, well, you know, this is just like opening up a can of Pepsi. What's the difference here? Just tell him, it's like, really? Because a can of Pepsi has thousands of psi in that little aluminum can? Really, Ed? Okay, sure. But Wabash Valley Resources, the people that I just talked about before, they were the one leading this whole thing. They were saying, you know what, we need to make sure that we have the legislators on our side. I'm not saying this is what happened, but, you know, for legal purposes, so I don't get sued, you use your imagination. Simon Greenshields, Peter Shirk, and Nayland Gupta. These are the three main people. By the way, who else is on the project team? Greg Zoller, the former AG of Indiana. Crazy, right? So as we all know, this is how it normally works. A company wants a bill to pass. So that bill gives it to a lobby, and then that lobby pushes it over onto the legislators. And we all know by now how the world works. Everybody is always focused on what? Money. Money is what makes the world turns around. And since people are greedy and people do love money, and I'm not going to lie, I do love my money, but I'm definitely not corrupt, we all have to start connecting the dots on all of this. And fortunately, you got yourself a nice, cute, and sweet little guy who's going to connect the dots for you. And lo and behold, I have that. Now, what did I say? There were three names that we had to worry about. Simon Greenshield, Peter Shirk, and Nayland Gupta. Now, if you go into the Indiana Campaign Finance website and you go and start looking these names up, what are you going to see? You're going to see Simon Greenshield. Wow, gave Mike Braun $7,500 in 2023. Wait a minute. What did I just say before? Who has to get the final sign before this whole thing gets going? Mike Braun? Wow. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Wait a minute. Simon Greenshield also gave money to the Senate Majority Campaign Committee in 2022. Now, this is where things get fun. I have talked about this many times. You can't just pay attention to the companies that give these people money. You have to look at the people. And I've said this before, it's not just the husbands, it's also people related to the husband. So weird that Simon Greenshield from Wilton, Connecticut, also a Julian Greenshield from Wilton, Connecticut, gave Mike Braun the same day $7,500 on when? November 19th, 2023. So weird. Also, Peter Shirk gave $1,300 to the Senate Majority Campaign Committee. Also, Nayland Gupta, Mike Braun, and Todd Rokita. That's interesting. The two people that have to sign off on the rules before they start pumping carbon dioxide into the ground for allegedly fertilizer. And who else? Andy Zay in 2022 and 2019. Wait a minute. Wasn't there when was that original bill? Someone tell me, when was that original bill? Was that in 2019? That's so weird. And who else was the author on it? Andy Zay? Wow, things are really starting to connect now, right? What did I just say? All right, well, let's go further on this, because remember when Mark Mesmer and Andy Zay were running for Congress? Wait a minute. That name sounds familiar. Nayland Gupta also gave money to who? Todd Young and the Todd Young Victory Committee. Oh, wow. When they were running for Congress? That's interesting. Wait, what were the four names again? Let's go back. What were the four names again? Originally from the 2019 bill, it was John Ford, Andy Zay, Mark Mesmer, and Alan Morrison. Don't you worry. Alan Morrison's going to make sense at the end. Let's go back to the right there. All right, so Mesmer, Andy Zay, also Simon Greenshield. That's interesting. Mark Mesmer again in 2024. Indiana Republican State Committee in 2022. Todd Young again. Wow, more connections. Remember, Julian Greenshield donated money to Mike Braun. Also donated to Mark Mesmer and Todd Young again. Boy, this stuff is getting interesting. You know, I'm calling this, I always have to be honest with everybody. There's $135 but then it got taken away. So it was given to Mesmer, but it was actually $3,400. All right, so don't worry, we're going to talk about this common values here in a second. But what's the big white whale? Wabash Valley Resources. And I've said this before. You can go onto the Indiana Campaign Committee, Indiana Finance Campaign website, and you can look all the stuff up because they want to make sure that they have all their boxes checked and make sure that all the stuff gets approved. Now, who did they give money to recently? Rodney Poll. All these in the red boxes are Democrats. All the ones in the red are Republicans and people that matter the most on the things that we are talking about. So you got Rod Poll, you have Andrea Hunley, Pat Boy, David Niezgoski, Mark Messmer, John Ford, Mark Messer, Mike Braun, Stu Glick, John Ford. Wait a minute. Alan Morrison back in 2020. That's interesting. So you have John Ford and Alan Morrison. Don't you worry, it gets deeper. Now, what did I say before? This common values pack. Now, when I was looking up the see who was Peter Shirk was giving money to, I saw that he donated money to $1,000 to this common values pack because he works for Wabash Valley Resources, which is right there. But if you go and you click on common values pack and you find out who is running this whole thing or who it's connected by, for those who don't know, a lot of these packs are connected to legislators, federal legislators, and this one's no different. You should see Shreve's. I was trying to find it before this. Shreve has like the name of his pack is like an acronym of his last name. It's like this. I have to look for it. I will post that in Indie Reporter if I ever find it. You can see John Barrasso he's the affiliated person to this pack. Now, if you type in John Barrasso carbon sequestration, you're going to see what? Carbon capture innovation back in 2023. We need carbon capture innovation, not coal elimination. That's I got to admit, that is a great motto. That's a good catchphrase, actually. They definitely need to put it on the side of a cereal box. But over here, he delivered remarks at a full committee hearing to examine the opportunities and challenges in deploying carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration and direct air capture technologies for federal and non-federal lands. So it just goes to show you that everything's all connected as usual. So let's talk about this real quick. So who's Alan Morrison? Well, he was a state rep, and then he stepped down so he could be the new director of DNR. Oh, wait a minute. Now, DNR is what again? Department of Natural Resources, the people that are helping with this whole carbon sequestration. And did Alan Morrison get money from Wabash Valley Resources, the people that are pushing for this carbon sequestration? Well, as a matter of fact, yes. What did I say? Everything's connected right there. Ugh. Wrong one. Don't worry, I'm not going to edit this. That's for another video. Right there. Alan Morrison. John Ford. Again. So John Ford becomes the head of DNR. But let's talk about Alan Morrison does. Let's talk about John Ford real quick. Former senator. Then he steps down so he can be president of Reliable Energy Incorporated. They are dedicated to promoting a safe, reliable, and affordable energy supply. But then he steps down from being president after being there for like a year, and then becomes the executive director of Office of Energy Development. Now, funny thing about the Reliable Energy Incorporated. So John Ford was the president, and then Savannah Kernstein was the vice president. But if you guys don't know who Savannah Kernstein, she's a former Shreve helper. I believe she was like a deputy campaign director or something. Zero experience with energy, but has experience in the lobbyist firm. As you can see right here, vice president of communications with Catalyst Public Affairs. Catalyst and Bose are like two of the top 3 lobby firms that you guys really have to pay attention to. Now, this whole carbon sequestration is something that you should be a little bit concerned about, because I did it just before I started this video. I decided, I'm just going to look to see if there's anything crazy about it. And there's a leakage risk, an earthquake risk, a cost in infrastructure, and greenwashing and fossil fuel dependence, which whatever. On here, though, there was a article about happening in Illinois. Yeah, launched in 2017. Overview of the Illinois Basin Decatur project. I'm not going to go much further than this. I just wanted to see if there was anything that we could relate it to. Our neighbor to the west, a blue state, had some leaks and permit violations. One in 2024 and one in March of 2024 and July of 2024. Monitoring well corroded, allowing CO2 to migrate into an unauthorized zone. And the thing is, this thing is about a mile underground, but there is an aquifer that sits right on top of it that is drinking water for 1 million people. So you can imagine if you're having a leak of CO2, thousands of psi of liquid CO2 injected into the ground, and then all of a sudden you have a leak, and now all that CO2 is going into an aquifer that's for 1 million people of drinking water. Of what that's going to do, it's going to turn the water into acid, because that's just basic chemistry. And now the bottom line is there's a pioneering effort in carbon capture and storage has successfully injected over 1 million. However, the emergence of leaks, permit violations, microseismicity, and low overall capture rates highlights the technology's limitations and underlines the need for improved safety, transparency, and regulatory rigor before the broader rollout. Now, there's also other things too about Brian and everything, but this whole video was about explaining of how bills really get going, where the money's coming from, and who's signing off on all this stuff. So we know that John Ford, Alan Morrison, Andy Zay, and Mark Mesmer all got money from the people of Wabash and Wabash Valley Resources, even through the state of Indiana, and through federal donations. Now, who else has to sign off on the rules for this carbon pumping? Rokita, who received money from one of the people from Wabash Valley, and Mike Braun, who received money from everybody. My point in all this is that no matter what we do, no matter how hard we try, that most of the stuff is going to get pushed through, even when you have the people of the area not wanting it. Same thing with this, same thing with data centers, same thing with solar panels. Most of the people do not want them, but at the end of the day, all these people are corrupt, all these people are scummy, and the best we can do is call them out. So until next time.